Good evening. My name is Hadley Stevens. I'm a junior in the Nonprofit Leadership Studies program. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the first annual Philanthropy Week hosted by the Nonprofit Resource Center Nonprofit Leadership Studies program, the Department of Organizational Communication and Leadership, the Arthur J. Bauernfeind College of Business, and Murray State University. Philanthropy Week is a celebration of generosity, philanthropy, and civic engagement. The giving of time, talents, and treasures by the citizens of Murray, Callaway County, and by the students of Murray State University make this a wonderful community in which to live and thrive. The Nonprofit Resource Center strives to recognize and advance the historic partnerships among the public, nonprofit, and business sectors. Murray and Callaway County and Murray State University continue to play an integral role in creating and sustaining these partnerships, which will help ensure our community continues to achieve its highest potential. Tonight, I am honored to welcome and introduce to you Callaway County Judge Executive Kenny Imes and Murray Mayor Bob Rogers. I would also like to introduce and thank Chad Lampy, Station Manager of WKMS. Chad will facilitate tonight's conversation on giving and community with Judge Executive Imes and Mayor Rogers. Gentlemen, thank you for being here to kick off our celebration.
Thanks so much, gentlemen. We're so happy to have you with us this evening. And I wanted to ask you first and quickly, Mayor Rogers, because we're still coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic, from your perspective, how have the nonprofits that you know of in the city really reacted to this? Where have you seen some of the most impact being made?
Well, it's been quite amazing to me when I talk to some of the agencies, talk to Beeline and United Way and senior citizens and different groups, and to see how they step forward to help the citizens, because obviously, with all the businesses closing and the unemployment, the need shot up, and they stepped to the plate. And the folks supporting them really stepped to the plate to help them raise the funds where needed. And a little bit later on, I might have some stats for you.
Okay. And Judge Imes, were you hearing something similar, or were the needs felt in the county somewhat different than what you had learned about just now from the city's perspective?
No, I think the mayor and I have met periodically with, as he said, different groups and trying to get an overall view. And we've been so impressed, I think both of us have, with the way our community has stepped up. Meals on Wheels through the senior citizen program, even though they shut down the whole center, they doubled up on the delivery of the Meals on Wheels. And a lot of people don't think about it, but our hospital even, technically it's a nonprofit. Mm-hmm. And even when we got to the high points of the COVID epidemic, I mean, they, like Spring Creek, the nursing facility, I mean, they made arrangements, got different ventilation, different systems in to make the accommodations. And those are just two examples of several hundred where people have done even more than the financial contribution they've got out and spent their time and efforts and made systems work, made all this come together.
I've observed, just being and living in a small town and appreciating kind of the rural lifestyle that we all have here, that in some cases, nonprofits might be a little bit more resilient because of the connection we have to those folks who run those nonprofits. It's not like we're in a major metropolitan area and you don't know who runs Needline or who runs Soup for the Soul or who runs the United Way. Mayor, were there things that maybe surprised you about how this community responded to, a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic?
Well, I've been here 15 years, so I can't say I'm surprised, because I've seen the community step up in time of need. This probably has been the time of the biggest need. But when I talked to the lady at the Needline, I believe she said she'd been there 20 years, and she made the comment that if there's a need, you just put the word out, and this community will take care of it. And I think that that's been the history of Maury Callaway County, and certainly it has been during these tough times.
Judge, did anything surprise you over the last year that you didn't expect to encounter, given the situation we've never been in before?
I don't know. I don't surprise real easy anymore. I think when you're in either of our positions, you kind of learn to not go with the flow, but nothing. Well, you get surprised, but the degree and magnitude has certainly surprised me. But I've been here all my life, and I'm 70 plus. So I'm not surprised at our community. I've always found our community to be that came together in times of crisis, be it a plant closing. I think this is the first, countywide, statewide, nationwide, worldwide thing that we've ever experienced, at least in my lifetime. And yet our community is just what, as the mayor said, the lady from Needline said, you present us with the issue, we're going to stand up to the plate. We may not always hit it out of the park, but we're going to make a conscientious effort. And that's what our community is. That's the kind of real people that we are.
Judge, we have heard from some nonprofits, and WKMS included, that support for nonprofits in some cases increased quite a bit during 2020 because the people in the community knew there was a need. But does that make either one of you think that there is a deeper pool of support in this community for nonprofit organizations, and is it something that could be used to utilize even maybe larger or better services for people in need?
Well, I think there will be a lot to learn over the next few years or even months, as we kind of, hopefully, this thing starts winding down. We gain from experience. That's the best teacher in my lifetime, is this experience. And I think we'll see places where we probably could have done better. I think we will see, in general, at least for some period of time, a extra measure of generosity toward other people, goodwill, that we will have a better understanding that others have needs, and needs are much greater than wants. And I think we've kind of come through a period of I want what I want and all that, but I think people are getting the picture that we're all human beings regardless of where we live, what we do, and all that. We have certain fundamental needs, and I think this community is not going to do its best not to see that those needs are not met. I may have got that.
No, it sounds like, if I can distill that, it's a matter of perspective. Our perspective is different now that we've lived through something like this. Yes. That we know more about our needs, and we know a lot more about what we're just wants. That's kind of what I took away from that.
Well, I think the level of support is proportional to the level of need. And I think when people see a higher need, they're going to dig down a little deeper, and they're going to try to help their fellow man. If they see somebody hurting, they're going to try to help them. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of community that we live in, and we're proud to be a part of.
Mm-hmm. So do you think, Mayor Rogers, what role do you think the city government should take in support of nonprofits? Is there a certain level where government fits and government doesn't fit, in your opinion?
Well, most of the times people want to define the level of support by how much money you give. And obviously both the city and the county support financially, to some extent, our nonprofits. But beyond that, the moral support, the encouragement that you provide to your citizens, to your employees, whether it's somebody wanting you to promote payroll deduction for a certain charity and things like that. So I think the fact that city and county are so supportive and appreciative plays a big role.
The same question to you, Judge, and couching it too that the government is not in the business of a profit, right? The government in and of itself is kind of a nonprofit. So, but what is there a role that the county government should play, in your opinion, in the success of nonprofits or philanthropic organizations?
I think the mayor hit the nail on the head. I mean, we are primarily, our function as governing bodies is to provide for the safety and general welfare. I mean, that's sort of a constitutional concept, but the general welfare, I mean, again, you got to get down to be able to find the difference between a need and a want and things like that. But I think in general, just seeing the community leadership, state leadership, federal leadership kind of come together to recognize that we are a people. We have individual needs and specific needs. I mean, whether you're older or have medical issues or just need a helping hand, it's all that variety. And when you take all these organizations together in some way or manner, it kind of gets the yarn wrapped around the ball to make it all work as best we know how today. Tomorrow we may have better ideas. And I mean, when you've got 303 by, I think that's 2019 data, census data, nonprofits in the county, I mean, you think about that in relation to the county system. And then I would point out that overall the economists or these people that keep the numbers and figure these things out, I mean, we're talking about the overall impact of non-profits and including government, which, as you correctly stated, is technically non-profit, $177 million in Callaway County. And whether that's coming in some fashion or going out or however the wheels turn to make, whether you're working for a wage and paying taxes or you're unemployed right now and receiving the benefits of those things. I mean, it's a central process that just makes it all work. I mean, that's what I think our Lord put in our hearts to be a fellow citizen, a fellow human, and see after the needs of each other.
One thing you just mentioned that made me think that we should call out the point that many people may not think about churches as being in this nonprofit or philanthropic area, but churches do a significant amount of philanthropic work in this county.
Well, I think historically, in general, church or a religious community, regardless of the particular faith, but especially here in our community, the Christian community that I grew up with and all, that was just a part of going to church. I mean, that's what you were taught. That's what you were instilled. That's what's in our Bible, is to take care of our neighbors as well as ourselves, and to put them on an equal plane with ourselves. So I think regardless of whether they're a registered nonprofit, I think when you consider all historically the role that the churches in our community have played, it's significant. And I think that's the foundational network that we kind of all, whether we're practicing a particular religion or not, but that's kind of the framework we've grown up with historically and even now, presently.
Let's shift a little bit to talk about just some of the needs. We've talked about wants or needs, and we know that there's a significant amount of work for food insecurity in the county. There's an additional effort for homelessness awareness, with the Gentry House and Hope Callaway kind of combining. But Mayor Rogers, if you could maybe opine a bit to say or tell me what you think might be one of the biggest needs in this community right now that may not be met to the level that it should be in terms of service to
I think
citizens.
Probably the biggest need is trying to help people find out what's available and how to access it. The government has put a lot of programs out there, whether it's the PPP program for businesses, whether it's rental assistance, utility assistance. There's a lot of help out there, but I think a lot of people maybe need some assistance trying to access the help. A lot of people have trouble with getting their unemployment, and sometimes it's just a matter. It's not like it used to be where you go down to the unemployment office and sign up, and you go back a couple of weeks and tell them you found a job or not, and there's just so many thousands on unemployment now that I'm sure the people in Frankfurt are trying to sort through them, and then it runs out and they have to re-sign up. But as I've talked to the different agencies, it seems like some specialize more in helping with utilities, some in rent, some in food, and so trying to get everybody to the right agency, I think there's a lot of help out there. If the landlords and the tenants work together, there's a lot of help for people struggling with rent. And most of the utilities company, I know our city utilities, we work with people to make arrangements if they are having a little bit of trouble, and so we don't have to cut off their utilities. And so I think that just coordination of efforts and helping people, not everybody is totally technologically literate and maybe don't know how to access some of these funds.
And the same question to you, Judge, were there things apart from access to information, things that you think is a fundamental need that maybe we aren't quite hitting the mark on?
Well, I fully agree with the mayor. Just helping people get to that point that they can apply or let their need be known, whether it's through their family, their church organization, or the community. I think that's a big role that you all in the media in particular play, is how do we disseminate this out to somebody that lives, out in the quote-unquote boonies of Callaway County versus somebody that's, right next to us here at Murray State or something. That's the reason, one thing that, we're still not going to necessarily get everybody to that point, but having internet service throughout the county, I think, is going to be one of the vital things, which is a part of the information highway. So you connect with telemed, you connect with unemployment insurance, and that's what I'm seeing and hearing too. It's just getting the connection made between the people. And I mean, some people are going to be probably prouder than others to go ask for help. I think we all understand that. But pride when you're hungry or you need shelter will soon evaporate, I think, in most cases. But we just need to be able to, whether it's our sheriff's office, police department, just people calling in either of our offices or another county agency to say, hey, we know this needs going on, and then getting to those people in the proper manner to say, obviously you're not going to say we're here from the government, we're here to help, but we're here from people that are interested in you as an individual and want to try to help you in some way. I think these blessing boxes, things that have been created, are just such phenomenal successes throughout the county, and the people that thought of them came up and then actually service them and follow through. I think that's going to be the big thing of the future, is that we follow through. I mean, we're in this thing right now, so things start letting up. Let's not let people fall through the cracks.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think in terms of falling through the cracks is when people aren't able to gather or check in on folks, makes it, kind of scary to think what people are doing without right now that we don't even know about.
Right.
You'd mentioned the number of nonprofits registered in Callaway County. You said it was 301, and you had 303, and you have the measured economic impact was about 177 million. Was there additional breakdown in that data? Do either one of you have any additional breakdown in that number? Because that's fascinating to see that large of a number for economic impact.
It is, and when I saw the number, but I guess I do, when I think of nonprofits, I don't always think of churches, and I don't always think of civic clubs, and I think of the hospital and things like that, and so generally you think of those that are out there providing immediate assistance for certain needs. So the number was somewhat staggering when I saw it.
We haven't.
I think honestly that's probably the tip of the iceberg because I think there are people in different communities, smaller community or relationship, mobile home park and all that do stuff that we don't even know about, and they're certainly not registered with, the government as a ID. They're not needing that status to take care of that need. So I was surprised at the number when you actually see it in print, but then when you really think deep about it, as the mayor said, depending on your true definition of a nonprofit, and each one of us would be different. But I mean, you just take all the educational associations, churches, the humanitarian groups, that make the whole basket fit, and it's not surprising. But I think people do not realize the economic impact over as this money goes through its cycle.
We haven't talked much about arts and culture organizations. I just thought we've talked about real, like human, like the Maslow hierarchy of needs, like just existence and living. But I don't think we can't understate the importance of the arts and culture organizations in Callaway County. I think specifically right now, Playhouse in the Park, and just the amount of good that it does, and some of their summer projects, the Penguin Project. I mean, those are really important aspects of this community that, in my opinion, make the reason why we pick this place to live, make it a good place because of these community outlets. I just offer you the opportunity, Mayor, to talk about, arts and culture nonprofits that you think play an important role and why they play an important role for this community.
Did you ask me another question?
I asked you the role that you think the arts and culture organizations play in this community that are nonprofits. I was referencing specifically Playhouse in the Park, but that's the first one that comes to mind. It may not be the only one.
Well, yeah, you've got that. You got the Art Guild, and I suppose technically anybody that is a 501c where people can donate money, I guess it's technically a nonprofit. Perhaps the band boosters and things, but I think typically one thinks of those who maybe aren't just providing programs, but are providing for the immediate need or livelihood of people. And certainly that's what we've dealt with the last year, trying to provide food and shelter and utilities. Those needs, they rose to the top pretty quickly.
I think to have at some point as a civilized people, we've got to have the educational system. We've got to have arts. We've got to have the park in general. All the various aspects, MAG. All these things are part of who we are and hopefully who we will be in becoming. Again, food and shelter are the first and foremost needs of man. But as we come out of this, hopefully, and people are doing that now. You're already seeing things going on at the park. They're having meetings even as we speak, regarding the pool and, what role does it play as far as getting people together, getting to know each other and all that. And these different aspects, the library, that's, another thing that's going through a transition, but that's a vital part. Libraries have always been, a vital part of the community in the educational and overall enhancement of civility, civilization.
Yeah, I think it's probably safe to say that the nonprofit community and the local support that it gets is probably a lot of the glue that binds a lot of people in the communities together. Knowing that you and I may support the same nonprofit is another way that we're connected to each other than we may not have known about before. So
True.
Well, I think the mayor and I met with United Way the other day, and I think they have got a new vision that I was very impressed with. As far as their overall working together, and maybe then even getting people that are basically supplying foods or shelters or whatever, getting them to form a closer bond, and work, divide up particular services. I mean, you've got people that support either through a civic organization like building ramps at houses, and all these things just come together to fit a need. Again, I stand amazed and very thankful that we are fortunate enough to live where we live and have the kind of general community support and backing that. But I've seen it all my life here. That's the reason I've never had any need or desire to be anywhere else. And
Mayor, maybe your closing thoughts too, since you're not a lifer, right? You said you've only been here for 15 or 20 years. What would you say the nonprofits in this region are part of the things that keep you here too? Just this glue that binds the community together is one of the reasons that, obviously you're the mayor, you love this community, so.
Yeah, it's something that, as superintendent, I was able to see how the people joined together and supported our school, but they also support the other schools. I see how people support Murray State, and it's just when you get involved, you assume some ownership, and it becomes ours, not theirs. It becomes ours. And I think as people become involved, as they volunteer, as they donate, as they promote, then you just get stronger. And I've seen that. And my wife and I were very impressed and decided to make this our home.
Mm-hmm. Well, gentlemen, those are all the questions I have. Is there anything else you guys would like to add about the role of philanthropic giving and nonprofits in this community that we haven't talked about?
I don't know. I guess we've kind of gone around the circle with it, but I think as people learn more about truly what nonprofit is, some of them are one horse shows or maybe two horse or a group of people or Sunday school class or whatever. And then you got people that have to make a salary. I think that's something till several years ago I thought a nonprofit, nobody could live out of it. Everything was a donation of time. But since then, we've seen in the past there are national, in particular, nonprofits that have done a very good job. One of my litmus tests, so to speak, and whether I'm going to get involved in a nonprofit or not, is what percentage of their total income, if they can tell me, goes to the recipient rather than going to the administrative cost of it. Mm-hmm. And that's true with city and county government. We have payrolls to meet, we have administrative costs, but ultimately it all delivers in a service of some kind, what's a health department, a road department, street department, highway department, or wherever we give that. And that's the thing, going back to the cultural needs that I think sometimes we miss. I know in our county budgets, things that in the past that we have traditionally supported as community efforts in our different segments of the community, we've not been able to keep a lot of that up, and we've lost a lot in doing that, to have these community events where you get to know your neighbor and know their needs and so forth.
Mm-hmm. I'm sort of a numbers guy, so I call to get some more information. If we have time, I'll share.
Sure.
I call Needline, and every month they provide 315 seniors with shopping carts of food. In March of 2020, they provided assistance to 1,654 people in 1 month for rent, food, utilities, and she said even for Easter baskets last year. I said, well, where did you get your money? From the city, from the county, from the citizens, from the churches. No state or federal money involved in Needline. We met with United Way, as Judge said. They've given out almost $100,000. And he mentioned this program that they're becoming a part of called 211, where citizens can dial 211 and ask for guidance for whatever need they have. And this service will provide that guidance as we understand it. She said they have a lot of volunteers. They work with the other agencies. West Kentucky Allied, they provide money for electricity, natural gas, propane, weatherization, things like that. Now, they do receive state and federal funds, but a lot of people go to them for the utilities. Soup for the Soul provide hot meals Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. They rely on donations of food and money from the citizens, churches, businesses, and they have fundraisers. They feed approximately 60 per night, a free hot meal. She said they couldn't stay open without the support of the community and the volunteers. Judge talked about senior citizens. Senior citizens had to make a big change. Instead of all those folks coming there and eating lunch, all of a sudden they had to start delivering. So they went, starting March the 13th, they went from providing Meals on Wheels from 93 people to 256 people. They went from 4 routes to 8 routes. They go all over the county. Their funds, they did receive a couple of grants, some PPP funds. They received over $50,000 in donation from our citizens. They got some money from the PAD office. And so the question is, when they open back up, will some of these funds dry up? And will there be funds to keep them going? And, of course, they've got to decide the parameters of open back up. Have you had your shots yet? A lot of things that still have to be figured out. Mm-hmm. But those folks go to the senior citizens not just for food. They go for exercise. They go to spend time with friends, socializing, playing cards, and doing things. So he says that they're just sort of walking around the building right now, waiting for them to open up so they can get back in. That's the highlight of the day for a lot of folks. So you mentioned the Homeless Coalition and Gentry House and lots of others. But that's an example of how the community has supported these agencies and the support that they've given. And then obviously we know about the stimulus money that the federal government and the state government for unemployment and things. So the country has really made an effort to help its people, and hopefully this will be something that we'll all remember as a time when people joined together and helped everybody get through it.
The only recollection I have of something similar to that is when we had the ice storm in 2009. And I can speak from direct experience at this radio station because we were the only one on the air. And hopefully for the nonprofits that really have stepped up and have seen that increase in support, that support will continue after the pandemic because they've really kind of proved their oats, right? That people really know that impact is important. And the next time something bad happens, they want that nonprofit to be on sound financial footing to be able to manage that in the event that $50,000 in donations isn't there next time. So,
well said.
Judge, any closing comments from you?
No, I would just comment. I was kind of running the numbers as the mayor spoke to them there. I mean, when you add this many people here and a few more over here, and some of them may be the same people, but kind of doubtful. But you add all that up, and the best I could figure, we were talking about 11 or 12% of the county. Just using those base numbers of these people that had some kind of a need that has been addressed just in those limited 5 or 6 specific instances. So the time you take the 302, you can see the significant impact the nonprofits play in our community.
Well, I
I
want to
mean,
thank.
it's an economy in itself if you really think about it.
It is. It's we operate on a regional scale in terms of our service area, but you're right. It is. It is an economy in and of itself. And the interesting thing about people who give to nonprofits is I believe they give to many. It's almost like you have a philanthropic heart in your body. You're not just going to give to one. You're going to give to multiple nonprofits, and that's what makes makes the community tick in many different ways.
But the judge and I are committed during our term to working together and doing what we can to help our community.
We want to thank you both for participating. Thank you for Mike Owen, who organized this evening. And I want to remind folks who are watching that tomorrow evening, Dr. Bob Long will be here. He's the interim director of the Nonprofit Leadership Studies program at Murray State, and he's going to discuss the roles of community foundations with Tony Watkins and Harold Hurt. So that's going to be a live stream at 6 o'clock tomorrow evening. Again, Mayor, Judge, thank you both for joining us.
You're welcome.
Thank you.